folks, I am live with David, and we're going to switch over to that in just a second. I have to make a quick adjustment to the camera. I am doing that right now. Dale, when you have a chance, can you fix the Zoom for us? I don't know if he's out there. Abby, if you hear him, can you have him come in and take care of that? We've got to address that issue in just a second. While I am doing that, let me see here. I think Dale's coming in to do that right now. I'm going to take this off the camera angle so that Dale can fix the Zoom. Hold on a second. All right. Yeah, go ahead, bro, if you can. Yeah, that one. That's the one. So, yeah, that's good. You're not even blocking me. That's good. No, closer in a little bit. I think that's, no, that's too much.
That's too much me.
Too much. A little bit out, further out. Yeah, look at the main screen. Look at the big screen. Not that screen. Look, the one that you just, the preview screen. There you go. No, up. Look, up. That's the shot.
It's the same shot.
Yeah, I know. But that's the one that's giving you a better reference. We're live. You know we're live, right?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
This is interesting.
All right. Yeah. Say again.
Do you need to adjust it?
Let me check and make sure. I don't think I do. Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Okay. And let me see if we can get this going. Okay. I think that's good. Yeah. I think we're good. Okay.
So the nice thing about live is it adds authenticity to the experience.
It does when things are getting a little crazy. That's for sure. Let me see here. And then, yeah, I think we got to fix that. You got it. I'm going to fix this little crazy. See, I'm pointing out things that people are already noticing. And already we probably have people going, come on, man, get on with it. You guys got lots to talk about.
We do. We do.
Okay, we are going to talk about a lot of stuff, folks. We are going to talk about the geopolitical implications of Donald Trump becoming the 47th president of the United States. We are going to talk about how Israel is already affected. We're going to talk about how Turkey is affected. We're going to talk about Qatar. We're going to talk about Kuwait. We're going to talk about Iran. We're going to talk about Saudi Arabia. We're going to have a conversation about all of the countries that run along the east coast of Africa, and all work together for what may be one of the craziest moments in Middle Eastern history that we're going to see. Quite frankly, maybe one of the craziest moments in world history that we're going to see. And I'm going to tell you,
it is. We're in the middle or the beginning of a major shift.
Holy smokes! You're putting it very mildly.
Yep.
I think you're putting it very, very mildly. So there's a lot of I'm just gonna say this. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. The kind of stuff that you can't even believe. Before we get into that, I do want to just mention a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you guys that are doing the super chats and the super stickers. You have been very supportive. And by the way, speaking of supportive, I have to tell you how much of a blessing it was to see you guys at the conference that Tom did. I think it was a really, really good conference.
Yep.
I think that it was very, very well done.
Well organized.
Very well organized. I think that the people that showed up were awesome. Ray Goldsboro, I got to meet you for the first time, which was really awesome, face to face. That was great. And there's a bunch of you guys that I got to meet. I got the whole long list. And yes, Nicole, we're very happy about Mike Huckabee. We're going to talk about that. As a matter of fact, I was witness to David right before we went on air calling Mike Huckabee to congratulate him, which was an awesome thing to listen to. That was pretty cool. We'll talk about that in just a second. So you guys are just awesome. I want to let me quickly thank you guys for these super stickers and super chats. We're going to have a pretty involved conversation. So as they come in, and I would encourage you to keep them coming in. It's a blessing. We'll get to them when we can. Let me read a few of these. Brad, you say Donald Trump will meet with Joe Biden at the White House tomorrow. My advice to President Trump, bring 8 bottles of Febreze. Oh, it's so hard.
Did I hear correctly that his wife doesn't want to be there?
Jill Biden doesn't want to be there? Melania?
Melania
Well, I
doesn't
don't
want to
know.
be there.
I mean, why would Melania want to be anywhere near slime?
Well, for grandfather clause. I mean,
But I mean, I think a lot of that stuff is rumor. Melania is is an extraordinarily classy lady. I'd be shocked if that was the case. Many have stated, Brad, you say this. Many have stated one reason Kamala lost is she refused to do the #1 podcast in the country. Brother James, did you invite her on this show?
No.
Oh, that's really funny. But she did refuse Joe Rogan.
Can you extend an official invitation to
Oh
Kamala
yeah,
Harris?
Kamala Harris.
I mean,
Come on down.
I'll move my seat over and I'll sit you between me and James.
We'll
really,
sit down and interview you.
That would be a great show.
And then Brad,
And we promise not to squish you.
oh my goodness. I can't, dude, Brad, I can't read this comment, bro. There's no way. I can't read that comment. Sorry. I love you, but I can't. You're out of control. I can't do that. And then KKick31, always love your show. Can you explain how the end times is affected by this election and how we need to keep our eyes on the prize of Jesus' return? Thank you, James. That'll be a good portion of this show.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's in essence going to be the conversation. And so we're going to do that. And by the way, thank you, Kicks31 or Kick31. This is your first, no, actually, this is your 10th time. We try to keep record of these things so that we can point it out when you guys are such a blessing. Isaiah 53, thank you for your support. What a blessing. Oh, that's funny. So, yeah, so Dean is telling me that Melania turned down the tea party with Jill. Can you blame her for doing that? These are the people that tried to kill her husband.
That lied about her husband and then lied about her husband.
But I'm saying, but you understand what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. They led to all of, he's dangerous. He's a danger to, come on. I wouldn't, I'm sorry. I don't blame Melania for doing that. Yeah, by the way, David Farden Jr., you say, can you look into a coup being led by Mitch McConnell, supposedly started yesterday? It is a coup.
Yeah, well, you need to explain that to me because I'm a little baby American.
I'll explain the Mitch McConnell issue. It's a disgrace.
And how that works and what's going to happen.
Mitch McConnell does not, he's a Republican. He's a terrible man.
Yeah, but
he's a terrible man.
How is this coup happening? Because
what Mitch McConnell is doing is he is organizing a mini little voting session, basically, to get somebody in charge of the Senate to take his place. He's the minority leader, but to take place of because now there's a majority in the Senate, but he wants to have a never Trumper be in charge of the Senate. And if there's a never Trumper that gets in charge of the Senate, then Trump is incapable of being able to facilitate what he needs to.
But doesn't it have to be a Republican?
Yeah, it's a Republican, and there are several Republicans that don't like Trump.
There are several Republicans that are never Trump. Do we not have a say, or doesn't Trump has a say on who is going to be up for that job?
Listen, he has a huge say, but these guys are going to make it very difficult. When push comes to shove, it's the Senate that makes those decisions.
So I haven't understand what exactly role he's trying to push.
Yeah.
And how he can actually push it.
Basically, what he's trying to do is this. Let me read this last comment. I'll explain it to you, okay? This is Waiting on the Lord. God bless you, Pastor James and David. Loved watching the special with Pastor Jack Hibbs. Also, Michelle Obama was so upset about the Trump win that she decided to change her name back to Mike. Oh, I love it.
Big Mike.
Anyway, okay. And then is this Pookie? Yeah, Pookie, you say, watch and be sober. Brilliant, James. 1 Thessalonians 5:6 embedded in my cabeza. But how many, James, will heed this by Paul? And you, James, enjoyed your session, David Tall. I've been to Israel and love her. Okay, bro, thank you so much for that encouragement. Like, what a blessing. And I don't know. I mean, it's going to need a lot of people to listen and to pay attention. Okay, so you had a question, David, that I wanted to I forgot. There was...
Okay, I've got a House and I got a Senate.
Yep.
Okay, we're talking about the House or the Senate with this.
We're talking about the Senate here.
We're talking about the Senate.
Yeah.
If I understand correctly.
2 senators per state.
Yeah, but the Republicans have 2 or 3 more senators than the Democrats.
We have a Senate majority. That's right.
There's a Senate. So the leader of the Senate, leader of the House, has to be a Republican.
So you have what's called a majority leader and you have a minority leader. The majority leader is the person who's part of the party that is the majority in the Senate. The minority leader is the person who leads the minority party in the Senate.
I got you. So that means the the Republican version of Nancy Pelosi. She was.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
No.
She
the
was.
Republican version of Nancy Pelosi is a different person than the Republican version of Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer was the majority leader of the Senate. The Senate's not a majority anymore.
Okay.
So now that's what they're
They need
doing.
a
They're
new
looking for
majority leader.
they're looking for the majority leader.
So-
the minority leader in the Senate was Mitch McConnell because Republicans were not the majority in the Senate; they were the minority. If that makes any kind of
So
sense.
now we understand that Mitch McConnell has a say in who is going to be the new leader.
Of course.
Because he
is the leader of the Senate Republicans.
Okay, so he has brought up 3 people, nominees, I understand.
One of which is loyal to Trump, or one of which is loyal to the MAGA doctrine, and the other 2 are staunchly opposed to it.
Why did he bring up those 3 of all of the people that he could have brought
Because he's looking to play a game to stick it to Trump.
So he wants to have a majority leader in the Senate that is run by Republicans that is anti-Trump.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Tucker Carlson did a post on this that I thought
I'm sorry I'm asking all these weird questions. Again, this is me in the beginning of this trying to understand. And why, if Trump took both the House and the Senate and...
Well, Trump didn't. You see, so what's happening is you're conflating the parliamentary structure of your country with the republic structure of ours. It's very, very different. Remember, we are a constitutional republic. You guys have a what I would call a modified parliamentary structure. Your parliamentary structure is not anywhere near like what you would see in England, for example.
Yeah, but it is modified, but it is basically a parliamentary democracy based on that.
It is. It is. But again, the function of the republic for which we stand here in the United States of America has a completely different has a completely different role and works a completely different way.
Okay. Do you want to read her?
Let me see.
The McDonald's?
Oh, no, that's Dean who says this. Dean says, Kamala is taking over Trump's job at McDonald's. In other news, McDonald's is going out of business.
Well,
That's funny.
I was at a really weird show in Seal Beach yesterday. It has a lot of Trump memorabilia, which is really, really weird.
Yeah.
Okay. But one of them was a sign that it says it's no longer McDonald's, it's Megadonald's.
Man, I'm going to tell you this. Did you see the resignation letter that Trump wrote to McDonald's?
No.
Super funny. He basically said, effective January the 20th, 2025, I resign from my position at McDonald's to take on a new job. What a hilarious thing, because that's the day he gets inaugurated, basically.
So to go back to this coup that they're trying to go. So there's going to be 3 people that we know. 2 of the people named by this Josh McDonald, his name is?
Wait.
Who's making the...
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
Okay, he's brought up 3 people, and he's decided that 2 out of the 3 people are anti-Trumps.
Yeah.
And the vote, I understand, is going to be anonymous. Meaning all of the Republicans in the House have to vote who is going to be the leader.
Right. That's right.
And nobody will hold them accountable for what they vote.
Yep. So let me read a quote that Tucker Carlson wrote, although I have not been a fan of his stand of Israel. But what he said here makes
I've been very anti his stand about Israel.
I know. That's a whole other issue, and it's something we have to really get going with. By the way, Brad, he's so funny. He says, "Don't worry, bro, David. I get just as confused with Israeli politics." So let me read this. Tucker wrote this, and I think he's just angry, and his anger is well founded when he says this. He says, what the heck, he doesn't say heck, he says hell, is going on in the U.S. Senate. Hours after Donald Trump wins the most conclusive mandate in 40 years, Mitch McConnell engineers a coup against his agenda by calling early leadership elections in the Senate. 2 of the 3 candidates hate Trump and what he ran on. One of them, John, oh wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that John Cornyn was one of them, is angry liberal whose politics are indistinguishable from Liz Cheney's. I didn't realize it was John Cornyn. That's crazy. I didn't realize he was one of those guys. Mitch McConnell's such a devil. The election is Wednesday, It's by secret ballot, and it will determine whether or not the new administration succeeds. Rick Scott of Florida is the only candidate who agrees with Donald Trump. Call your senator and demand a public endorsement of Rick Scott. Don't let McConnell get away with it again. Isn't that crazy? I didn't know that Rick Scott was
But even as, aren't most of the Republicans in the Senate today going to endorse, even if it is a, how do you say, secret ballot?
No. Listen, bro, it's a secret ballot. Mitch McConnell is making it a secret ballot so that nobody knows who voted on what. He's basically opening up the door for anybody who secretly hates Trump to shut Trump down. Because let me blow my nose here for a second. Hold on. Because this is what happens, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff. If you have a guy right now who runs the Senate who hates Trump, it's going to make Trump's agenda very difficult to pass.
Yeah, but again, if I line up all of the senators that are Republicans, and I think the number, how much is it? How many?
I think now it's 54.
54.
Yeah.
And I say, how many of you secretly hate Trump? You still won't get a majority. I think most of them will be.
But it's not going to be that simple, bro. If it was that simple, then it's great.
Okay.
But he's having a secret ballot cast, so nobody will know which supporter supported Trump and which supporter didn't. So they'll be less inclined to want to vote based on the politics of the moment, and they'll vote based on their emotion, their feelings, what they've been pressured to vote for, whatever. If they vote in somebody other than Rick Scott, then what's going to end up happening is the agenda that Trump has is going to be sandbagged, basically.
I get you. Well, they're going to sandbag it for personal reasons, because they all realize
all
that
a
part
bunch
of the
of
reason
selfish-
that they're there is because the Republican ideal, the Republican mentality, the Republican direction has been the one that the people have wanted.
Yeah.
So if they want to stay in the people's good graces, they don't change and move away from that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But the problem is it doesn't work that way.
When will we know?
The problem is, Wednesday.
All right.
So we'll know tomorrow.
So there's something to pray for.
Yeah, we definitely have to pray that Rick Scott becomes a Senate majority leader.
Okay.
We don't really have a choice. It has to happen that way.
And if we are talking about nominations, can I share the news?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, someone already just talked about it. Remember?
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. By all means.
I have to say I am really, really smiling today. And I know, you read news and it's like on the news and you hear about people and you have an idea. For me, it's rare that I get to talk about somebody that I actually know in the news cycle. And we just now found out about an hour and a half ago that President Trump has nominated Mike Huckabee, Governor Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, as the American ambassador to Israel.
It's really sweet.
And hallelujah. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things you need to know about that. I know Mike Huckabee personally. I've been his tour guide for the last 10 years. I actually met him in Arkansas 3 months ago when I was on a speaking engagement there. And I'm going to say this. Mike Huckabee is a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
He was a Baptist minister. He is a born-again Christian. He's a great lover of Israel. And we've become good friends over the years. And you just now heard me talk to Janet and congratulate him
really
on Mike's phone, actually. But what I want to say is this, and here's one thing that I get to share this because I've known this. I'm a tour guide, and Mike Huckabee brings usually a 6 or 8 bus tour. And, he's the celeb, and we've had everybody from, the Gatlin brothers to Pat Boone and all kinds of celebrities that are there on a regular basis. And, Mike is a big celebrity, but I still remember we are sitting down in the Armenian restaurant. I never forget this, in Jerusalem. And we've got something like 300 people. And I'm the chief guy, the coordinator, the operations officer, if you want to put it that way. And it's always important to get people in and seated, because think about this: you have to seat 300 people for lunch at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're all walking through the same doorway, and I'm kind of making sure people are sitting here, making through. But as you know, the VIP always has a table on the side that is set it off for him. And Mike walks in with me because, I'm kind of with him on this. And he looks around, he says, "You sure there's enough place?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "David, I'm not sure." And he said, I kind of feel that we might not have enough place. I said, well, listen, we went over it, we counted it, we made sure everything's okay. There's enough place for everybody. So he says, okay, and he goes and he stands next to his table, and he doesn't sit down. And I'm seating everybody, and everybody, it's a whole balagan in itself. And he didn't sit down. I said, no, I walk over and said, Mike, this is your table. You can go ahead and sit down. We can get you started. He says, no, I'm not going to sit down until I know that everybody's got a place.
Yeah, that's the kind of man he is. And I tell you the story, by the way, of when he gave up his run during the primaries to become president. The reason why he did that was because he believed that God wanted him to. That was his primary reason, that God wanted him to drop out. And he believed that it was for the betterment of the country because he thought that Trump would be a better choice. Kind of amazing when you think about the kind of man that has that level of integrity.
Having this conversation here today
And he loves Jesus.
means that we now know why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me?
When we now know why he wasn't there, and he was actually put in this place for a time like this.
Oh.
And that's when, by the way, Mike Huckabee bought my vote, and I remember telling him that if he ever runs for president, I'd stop being a tour guide and go be a part of his campaign. But what I'm trying to say is, what Trump did here is nominate somebody who knows Israel and loves Israel in a very deep way. And Mike Huckabee has been bringing groups to Israel for the last 10 years of influence of people. And I mean, I sat with him and the guys from the Duck Dynasty. I don't know if that's important, but okay. And it was. Never knew what chewing tobacco was really like, but okay.
Yeah,
I got to that one.
Those guys.
But what I'm trying to say is President Trump is nominating the good guys. In this case, the really good guys. He's a born-again Christian and a great lover of Israel. And I can't help but say, if that's the direction this administration is going to come, we're up for another 4 years of a very, very different environment.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I know that Cruisin' Full, you have a question or you have a statement. You say, rumor, Biden will have Harris as president, and they push for Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, known as a disqualification clause before inauguration. You can put your mind at ease on this because I personally heard the arguments that were lobbied in front of the Supreme Court over the Colorado case, which was purely a Section 3 of the 14th Amendment case. And you should see how the Supreme Court literally demolished the left's argument on that. So to God be the glory, that is now in case law. There's no way they're going to be able to use a disqualification clause because the foundation for which they implement the disqualification clause, or what they call the disqualification clause, that's actually erroneously labeled, but what they call Section 3, which is their justification for disqualification, is based on the understanding of insurrection, but that doesn't meet the qualification to be found guilty of insurrection from what Donald Trump did. So the Supreme Court already ruled against it on a series of technicalities, so it'll never happen. By the way, Don Burke, the question you ask is how many are rhinos? Two of them for sure are rhinos. One of them is just an outright leftist. I mean, they're Republican, but they have no view. They completely agree.
What's a rhino?
A Republican in name only is what rhino stands for. Republican in name only, meaning they call themselves a Republican, but they don't.
Between an elephant and a donkey.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
So, but I just wanted to speak to that issue.
I want to say something because we're going to be talking about this a lot, and I think, and this is something that I kind of realized because I'm watching some of I actually watched The View this morning. Okay?
Why would you watch that trash?
Because I need to understand, what is going on. And here's the thing. I don't remember which of the late night hosts was it that looked into the camera and says, long live the revolution. I mean, okay, so what I'm trying to say is this. President Trump has been, by the grace of God, I believe, been selected to be the president of the United States and make some of the changes that we are seeing right now and will be seeing actually happening. But that doesn't mean the enemy's going to start shooting arrows at him. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't stop shooting arrows. That doesn't mean that he is now impervious to all attacks, and that doesn't mean that the attacks are not going to keep coming. So we need to be here on the defensive and we have to be in control of what's happening in order to make sure that those arrows do not, like we just now talked about this coup in the House, don't become or don't dissipate what I think has been a decision. And again, I'm hearing the Democrats, they can't believe that the people have decided this. They can't believe that the people are against some of the
because they
things that
can't argue. This election was too big to rig. There were so many people that voted for Trump that they can't, there's no way they could fake these numbers. And not only did he get the vote regarding the popular vote, right? He got the popular vote, but of course we also know that he also won my brain just drew a blank. But we all know. So
he run the electorate college.
the electoral college. Thank you.
He
won the electoral
popular
college.
vote. Okay.
So
and
it's a mandate. It's done.
it is a mandate, and he's got the Senate. It is a mandate. Okay, now
See how
things need to
bad
be.
my brain is working? This is what sleep deprivation does.
What happened? So why are you depriving your sleep? I mean, I told you.
Have you thought for 1 second how crazy this world is going right now and how busy that's keeping me? Are you kidding me? I just look. Here's the thing. This is the way I look at it. Okay, I have to just be careful how I say this because my family members will be very angry with me when they hear me say something like this. First of all, sleep is for the dead. Number one. Okay. Number two, no one is ever going to look back on a period of time like this and say, "Gosh, I wish I got more sleep." But they will look back on a period of time like this and say, "I could have done so much more if I had just slept a little bit less." We go through this when we do tours in Israel.
Yeah. I'll tell you what we say
You
on
know?
the tour. You know what we say on the tour.
Yeah.
You
What?
can sleep on the plane on the way home.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's exactly why. Because
why waste time in the Holy Land?
Because
when-
let's say you're in Jerusalem and you're too tired, you sleep, and you miss these sights. You're not going to say, "Dang, man, I wish I got more sleep." You're going to say, "Dang, I wish I woke up and looked at this site."
yeah.
That's
So-
my same attitude about life.
Well, we got that. But let's go back to
I
the
thought
fact
it was crawdad.
we
Don.
we need to be very, very on guard that this doesn't get taken in the wrong way. And I'm hearing some of the people actually saying this and connecting to this. Two, we need to make our wishes, and it turns out that President Trump is very sensitive to what is bubbling up underneath him. We need to bubble up the right things underneath him that need to be said and done.
Yeah.
And that's our role, even if this is the government and the administration that is in place. We haven't finished our role. Trump is going to need, and by the way, it's not only Trump, it's Trump in all the different aspects of this, is going to need nudging in directions that we think, and we know that he is sensitive to that.
Yes.
So our role in the churches, on our platforms,
That's right.
on the media, is to make it clear what we say and think. And I'm going to say something else. One of the things that we've realized is after these elections are two things that have coming out a lot. One, that the Hollywood influencers don't have the influence that they thought they did.
Oh, yeah. Well, they haven't had that influence in a long time.
Well, again, did you hear that Kamala paid $1 million to Oprah Winfrey for her endorsement in their TV show?
I did not know that.
Meaning they were having ads that say, "Give us your support," and people were sending in $10 and sending in $20, and she took $1 million of that and gave it to Oprah Winfrey. I mean, and here's the thing. If you have paid $1 million for something that is supposed to have an impact on the results, and this is the result, she actually threw those pearls in front of, in the biblical sense,
Swine.
there you go.
I
I didn't say it.
Oprah-
I didn't say it. I laid it up for him.
I mean, Oprah. I'm going to just say Oprah. Okay? Oprah Winfrey hasn't stopped being the whore that she's always been. If that's the case, it's like, you can buy me and I will give you my very soul. That's exactly what that is.
Which means, and here's
And
the
she's
thing.
a racist. She's a bigot. She's an absolute God hater. She, how in the world can she, and I just don't even want to.
But here's the thing.
These are some of the most heinous people around.
But it didn't work.
Praise God, it didn't work.
So
Thank
she
you,
had
Jesus.
an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and you know that is the old media type, and Trump had an interview with Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
And that impacted what happened probably more than anything, which means this, and this is me talking to me right now. What we're doing here, it turns out, is much more important than many of the actual media outlets and many of the influencers we thought had a lot of influence. This grassroots influence is much more important than we ever thought it was ever before. So you've got to start thinking about who you get your news from, who you pick up your information from, where you get your ideas from, and where you get your subscriptions from, because this is turning out to be much more important, and this can be less controlled.
Yep.
And I think that is part of the lesson that was learned. So one, the influencers are not as influensive as everybody thought. I don't even know if that worked out as a word.
They're not. Yeah, they're not as influential. That's the word that you're looking for.
Two, a lot more Americans are sensitive to the things that we've been talking about here than anybody ever thought before. People thought that the women issue was going to be the main issue, and it turns out that people, I mean, we like women, but that's not the only thing that makes a decision. The abortion issue, people thought that, that was going to be, and she actually ran completely on that, and it backfired on her.
Well, and I mean, you think about it, the average person, the average Joe that's out there looking at it is saying, I don't care about a woman's right to murder a baby when I can't even pay for my own baby. I mean, that's the thing. And here's a call out to all the cowardly pastors that shut their mouths and never said a word during this time that led up to the election. You're going to be the beneficiary of men who are bolder and more braver than you'll ever be. And congratulations, because you did nothing about it. You were the guys that turned up the music when they threw the Jews in the carts.
But here's the thing. What are all the pastors saying now? We were at the conference. We were talking about this a lot. What were all the pastors that didn't bring the politics to the forefront, that didn't talk about what's right and what's wrong? What are they saying now after
They're
this
not going to
election?
say anything. They're going to keep their cowardly mouths shut. And the people that go to their churches ought to recognize that and run. They ought to leave.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is this. Your church should convey your doctrine and not the other way around. Meaning, you have to decide what's right and what's wrong and find a church that actually connects to that. But take the word of God, listen to the Holy Spirit, and make a decision based on that, because it turns out that most of the people have the right idea, many more than we thought, and we're connected. Two, I'm glad to say, I remember sitting here a couple of days before the elections, and even on the day of the election saying, go vote, go vote, go vote. I'm glad to say Christians voted this time.
Yeah.
Many more in greater numbers, which is huge, I think, to connect to that.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I would agree with you. And I think that more than ever, although I don't think that Christians showed up the way they should have showed up for the vote, because if they did, it would have been a lot different, especially when it comes to the Senate and the House. I think, we would have played the game a lot different. I think Christians showed up enough to actually get us over the edge that we needed to get over. But here's my thing, and this is my message, okay, that I want to communicate to people. You love the Lord, you're walking with God, you're watching us here. Run away from a church that has a pastor who will not speak the truth, who will not show you how to live your biblical worldview, especially in the political arena. Run from that pastor.
And again, in the way that I like to do, I'm going to tie in what we just now talked about, Mike Huckabee. For instance, one of the things that has connected to me, and again, I meet a lot of people on buses and tours in the States. One of the things that has made Mike Huckabee a friend of mine is the fact that he does live according to his convictions. He's a politician, don't get me wrong, but he does live what he says. And that is something that you don't see in a lot of politicians. He says what he believes, and he believes what he says.
But he's rare. And the other thing that people don't know about Mike Huckabee is that Mike Huckabee is also a minister of the gospel.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, is actually a pastor. So, I don't know how active he is in the ministry now. I know he was.
I don't think he's really active, but
but he was, and I know that even in his time in serving the Lord, that at that capacity, he was very vocal about the political issues.
no. But what I'm trying to stress is this: there are people out there that live according to their convictions and actually live according to the Word of God. And you can be a political player, and you can be part of the system, even if you live according to your convictions.
And it's not even if you live according to your convictions. If you are a Christian, you are mandated by God to participate in these things. How can you be? This is the way I look at this, right? You knew my father.
Yep.
You loved my father.
Yep.
You and my father had a great relationship, okay? With all of the little nuances that existed with my dad, especially as he got a little bit older, the one thing that remained the same and probably increased because I got older was my love and appreciation for my dad and what he did. I think about my dad and my mom, and I recognize how much my dad and my mom busted their tails for me. I would not be the guy doing what I'm doing right now, that you guys are watching, that you're the beneficiaries of, if it was not for the sacrifice that was made by my father. So here's my thing, okay? I'll always stand in gratitude for him. I'll always be thankful to the Lord for what God gave me in my father.
Okay.
Let's talk about this for another second. Pastor Jeff.
Yeah.
When Pastor Jeff did what he did as a minister of the gospel, it dramatically affected me. Now, Pastor Jeff will argue that the majority of the discipling that I received was from my father and my grandfather, and he'd be right. But if it wasn't for Jeff, I wouldn't be here.
By the way, same thing. If it wasn't for Jeff, I wouldn't be here.
Think about that. So here's my thing. How in the world, if I'm grateful for people that affected me at that level, how in the world, why in the world would I be so ungrateful as in to not honor them for what was done? Your heavenly Father gave you salvation through the Jews. If it wasn't for the Jews, you would not have salvation. God chose to give you heavenly access. He chose to give you eternal life through the Jewish people. It was the Jewish people that preserved the Bible that we read every day. It's the Jewish people that made sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice.
And are still making,
and are still making sacrifices that we might have what we have. Do you understand that the Bible that we read today is better preserved, even from the perspective of extant manuscripts, is better preserved than original documents we have of Shakespearean literature? The Jews did that.
Well, I'm going to
Nobody else.
I'm going to say this. I love the little acts. I mean, you bring out the creative part, but I'm going to say it like this: your get into heaven free card, and that's what you do, has a Star of David on it.
Are you kidding me?
And you need to remember that. Without the Jewish experience, that option, and again, God's doing this in his magnificent way, but the machinery, the engine that God used to churn the machinery that actually brought salvation to the world, okay, is a Jewish engine.
It's not even a question.
Yeah,
it's not even a question.
But here is the question, and here's something else. Okay, and then I want somebody like Kaddis Owen, who turns on the Jews, okay, and I watched what happened in Amsterdam a week ago. And here's the thing. They haven't found the people who perpetrated. Okay, just an overview. There was a Maccabi Tel Aviv soccer match in Amsterdam against Ajax Amsterdam, which is a Dutch team. And after the game, and we lost terribly, by the way. We kind of, I think, 5-1. But Palestinian Muslims, pro-Palestinian elements in Amsterdam waited and actually pulled off, what do you call it? A pogrom, a rage against the Jews, actually grabbing. And I heard an interview with the dad. They followed him into an alley and they beat up his son, broke his son's jaw, broke his teeth, okay, and just beat him up for being Jewish. And that happened a couple of blocks where Anna Frank's house is in Amsterdam.
It's ridiculous. It's so satanic.
And here's the thing. The Dutch don't know how to deal with that because they're trying to appease the large Muslim population that they have there. By the way, that's another story in itself, but we've lost Europe.
Yeah.
We've lost Europe.
Yep.
We've lost the cradle of Western civilization. We've lost the area where the church was reformed. We've lost the cradle of democracy that actually spread over to the other side of the world. We're losing Europe as we speak right now, and that's something I don't think people really realize.
Yeah, this is the thing that I think is more reprehensible than anything, and that is the fact that this all comes from a lack of awareness. It comes from a functional decision within a person's heart to completely ignore the truth about everything that's in front of us. And if you want to continue to walk it with no gratitude, that's fine. But the reality of it is, don't expect God to bless you. Don't expect God to bless you. And I'm going to call it. Look, I'll tell you. People like Candace Owens, just wait. Her relevance is going to die a terrible death because of the fact that she dishonors God. She's not going to last long.
Don't forget that God has used people like Candace Owens and Haman and Pharaoh and others down through the ages.
How long have they lasted? You say don't forget. How long? Tell me, how long did Haman last? We're talking about Haman in the story of Esther. That's what he's talking about.
The story of Esther.
For those of you guys that don't know Hebrew, sorry.
As long as he swung. I mean,
Yeah, that's right. As long as he swung. Exactly.
Totally.
He's gone.
But
these people won't last.
I want to stress something else, though. And again, as a Christian, and the Netherlands is a Christian country with all of its complexities. Supposedly. Okay. As a Christian, I'm appalled at what happened there. And I'm appalled that the Dutch authorities haven't apprehended the people. And I'm appalled that they arrested 64 people, but they've only charged 4. Okay. And we know that hundreds of people took place in this. But I'm going to say something else. One of the things that came out lately is that they're blaming the Israelis for instigating it. We taunted the Arabs. We taunted the Muslims. And because of that, they decided to break people's jaws and throw them in the river and throw them on the railroad tracks.
I did not have my microphone muted when I blew my nose. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Okay.
I thought I did. Okay. Yeah.
So here's the thing. We're being blamed again. And again, as an Israeli and as a Jew, I'm saying, why? I've heard this before. I mean, I've heard this actually in the same places. You are to blame for what's being done to you. And as an Israeli, I'm not surprised, which brings me back to the theme that I've been pushing for a long time, including in the conference, okay? You need to show Israelis and Jews and Israelis, it's the same thing, by the way, in many cases. You need to show Jews that not all of the Christians see us in the same way.
Yeah, and I think that the bigger issue at hand here, and this is the one that makes it very, very difficult for us to understand or know, is founded in the fact that we have things that we continue to take for granted. And I think that that's the bigger issue. You're walking around. All these people are walking around in their comfortable homes, their aptly free world. If there's so much that they have that they've taken for granted, all of which was handed to them by people who suffered immensely.
I've got a cute little one that kind of reminds you of that. The way most of you say praise God, the language most of you use to say praise God, the term that has become synonymous with praise God is in Hebrew.
Of course.
Is in Hebrew. The way the world praises God, and we're going into Christmas, and you're going to say hallelujah, and you're going to say Hosanna, the way the world, the Christian world praises God is in Jewish Hebrew.
There are secularists that use that term. They'll go, hallelujah. And they're not even Christians.
I know I'm speaking to the choir here. I know you guys don't need to be reminded, but I have to say that I think, and again, let's talk about what's going to happen after Trump. I mean, what is going to happen as a result of this? I mean, let's go to the Middle East, but let's talk to the bigger picture because I think we've gone through some kind of watershed moment.
Yep.
And I think different aspects of it, you can see it. I think the Brexit issue in Europe and remember in England, different exits. Trump's first presidency, then what happened afterward, and now the fact that even though he's coming back, I mean, who's brought something means that I think most of the world today, most of the modern, progressive, whatever, realizes that we've pushed this too far. We pushed the wokeism. We pushed the Satanism too far. And there's this retreat back into something, and I think more than anything, it's what the left doesn't understand. Trump represents us reconnecting to our core values. And it turns out that there are core values in the United States, at least in a large margin. Both the popular vote and the Electoral College actually proves that, that there's still enough of those core values in the United States of America and in other places in the Western world. Yep. And we've been taken hostage. Now, something I want to say here, and I'm going to be dealing with it a little bit later, is this. I don't know if you know, but revolutions don't need a lot of people. What they need is a small amount of people that are very loud.
Yep.
And I can talk to you about the Bolshevik Revolution in the Soviet Union that changed Russia into the Soviet Union.
Yep.
A couple, tens of thousands of people. I can talk about the Nazi Revolution, actually, that overthrew the democratic government that was there and became Nazi. Probably about 2,000, 3,000 started off and exploded from that. I could talk about the French Revolution, that they're talking about the beginning of the French Revolution, a couple thousand people. So the numbers don't decide revolutions, the noisiness. And I want you to be careful. I want us to be warned that a small group of noisy people with a big platform can instigate a change that is much bigger, much wider, and much deeper than their actual numbers in the society.
Yeah, and I think that's why we have the system that we have in this republic. I think that's why there is an electoral college. That's why the founding fathers did some of the things that they did constitutionally that would make that virtually impossible. The problem is all of that is predicated upon somebody who lives a life that's virtuous. If you don't live a virtuous life, then in essence you lose that predicated function. It's gone. It doesn't work. And the founding fathers knew that. As a matter of fact, there's a quote, and I'll read it to you because I think it's definitely worthwhile to read. Okay. And this is a quote by, and I think I'll be able to put it up on the screen here. As a matter of fact, I know I can put it up on the screen. Let me put this up. This is oh wait, where are we? Did that work? It did not work, did it? That's because I didn't put it on the picture. Shame on me. Here's the quote. Okay, this is Samuel Adams, and I think that this quote is worthwhile. Look what it says. It says, "While the people are virtuous, they cannot be subdued. But when once they lose their virtue, they will be ready to surrender their liberties to the first external, notice this, or internal invader."
We did have an internal invader.
Yeah, and that's what revolution is fundamentally predicated upon, is the opposite of what Samuel Adams is saying.
So just a quick reminder. The United States of America was actually created by, instigated, in the whole Electoral College, which is brand new to me, is basically based on a biblical principle.
It is. It's biblically based.
It is. And
several biblical principles, by the way.
And we have a country that I'm not going to say is a theocracy. I mean, we're not Christian like Iran is Muslim. I'm happy to say. Okay. But there are biblical principles that are integrated into our political system that I'm learning more and more. And here's the thing. This election has proven that they were the right principles.
No, look, it's absolutely right. And by the way, we learned this from some of the things that we even saw in early Israel in the Bible days. And the funny thing is like, this is why the whole judicial reform argument is such a hotbed discussion, because the judicial reform discussion in Israel is founded on a problem that Israeli legal philosophy created. And that's the fact that there is no constitution in Israel, not like we have one, right? And the idea is that the laws and the rules, the precepts, and the every single penal code and every single document that's written by the Jews, and I'm using terms that are more applicable to us so you can understand the equivalent in Israel, right? But every single law that's written is based on the idea that morality is the governing tool that drives the writing of the laws. And right now in Israel, they're facing a very difficult situation in that morality is being lost in the governance of those tools, and activism is on the rise because the disregard for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is happening, which is creating this debate that's happening with respect to the judicial reform issue.
I'm also going to remind us that we are a younger republic or a younger democracy, the United States of America. And I don't know if you know, but the United States of America went through very deep moral questions as it was coming together. And just one clear example of that is the Civil War, okay? Yeah. Which means a civilization, a culture, a country, a society has to evaluate and... James, I mean, I'd be the first one to admit that I don't understand the first time, and sometimes I need to understand the third and the fourth time.
I mean, that's a lot of us.
I mean, again, so I mean, look at my life story. It indicates that more than anything else. And I know people that are, sitting even very close that are now going through transitions like that. So what I'm trying to say is Israel's got to kind of grow up and study. But the problem with Israel, I think, is a little bit unique in a different way because our external enemies are literally snapping at our heels right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is why I'm very glad to say that the United States of America has moved itself into a behind-the-sail kind of position instead of in front of the sail kind of position, and into okay, here are the values and here are the moralities and here are the ideals that we want to be conveyed into our public sphere, and here are the leaders that we select to select the functionaries that are going to do that. And again, we selected a leader that I'm not sure. I don't know him personally, but he seems weird sometimes.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm hearing again and again, even from Bill Maher the other day, is let's not go into Trump derangement syndrome. What is it?
That's what they're calling it. They're calling it Trump
TDS.
Trump
TDS
derangement syndrome. That's
okay, and even Bill Maher said, let's actually this time around, let's evaluate him according to his actions and not only according to what he says.
I mean, if they evaluated him according to his actions in the first place, bro, we wouldn't have the problems that we're having right now because his actions were admirable. His actions were actually very good for the country. Yet it would seem as though most people don't want to acknowledge that who sit on the left. They don't want to sit down and say, yeah, Trump did a good job. Trump's a great president.
So look at all the people. I mean, it'd be weird. I'd be weird to kind of hear names of people who were on the anti-Trump part. One name that I can throw out of here really, really quick is Ben Shapiro, who used to be an anti-Trumpist.
Yep.
At some point changed over. But
yeah.
I mean, even
the most prominent person that you can point out right now, if you want to point it out, who was severely anti-Trump, so anti-Trump that it was like, ugh, gosh, J.D. Vance.
There you go.
Who's now going to be the vice president of the United States.
Under Trump.
Okay,
and again, there's a whole list. I mean, one of the things that I've been listening to lately is lists of people who said, we're anti-Trump. After the first, administration, after his first presidency, says, okay, we were wrong about that. Okay, and now into this second realm, this is amazing. But what do we think is going to happen now?
So I think a lot's going to happen. I think that Israel's going to change dramatically. The Middle East as a whole is going to change dramatically because I think that what Trump is going to end up doing is he is going to end up significantly empowering Israel by allowing Israel to do what is in their prerogative to do. I think that what's going to end up happening as well is I think that Israel's going to get a massive upgrade to their Iron Dome system because I think what's going to happen is Trump is going to, remember, Trump is an America first person, right? I think that Donald Trump is going to build an Iron Dome system for America that's bigger than anything we've ever seen before. And I think that he's doing what I think he wanted to do in the first place. I think that Israel will be the beneficiaries of that. I think that already Israel has become the beneficiary of Trump being elected as president because of what's happening right now with Hamas and what's happening with these other terrorist organizations.
Can I give an example?
Yeah.
You heard what's happening with Qatar now?
Oh, yeah. Qatar is scared to death.
Okay, so here's the thing. Qatar is a small, one of the Gulf states. I think population about 3 million, I think, but only half or a quarter of them are actually Qataris. The rest is people.
All expatriates.
Expatriates and all kinds of stuff like that. But they've been playing a very weird game. So Qatar, on one hand, hosts the biggest United States Air Force military base in the Middle East, is in Qatar. And I don't know if we heard last week the B-52s that actually flew to the Middle East. And I was asking myself, where are they?
NORAD's command, or the North Command, which is going to be in Qatar.
Well, so it turns out that they're in Qatar. So Qatar as one plan, that's one part. But on the other hand, has been the representative that has been actually negotiating for the Hamas, okay, with Israel, and has been the house or the home base for the Hamas political residents.
That's right.
So do you understand what I'm saying? Across the street is a huge American military base with American personnel and American money actually flying in or kind of being poured into the nation. On the other hand, you have the Hamas Politburo sitting in a hotel in Qatar or in a complex, a building complex in Qatar, and hating America and hating Israel and hating the United States and everything that we actually hold dear. And they've been playing this double game for a while. And last week, they decided that they can't take it anymore, and they have announced officially that, one, they're not going to be part of the negotiation team for Hamas anymore, and two, they've asked the Hamas leadership to leave. Now, the only difference between now and a month ago is that President Trump is in office.
Yeah, President Trump is in office.
And that's directly impacted. I mean, he didn't even have to say anything. He didn't have to move anything. He didn't really have to do anything. Just the fact that he is in office made them tilt their loyalties a little bit in the direction that we think is the right direction.
He did tell Hamas, he did say, you better turn over the hostages.
Yeah.
Because if I become president and those hostages are not overturned, I'm going to bomb the literal hell out of you. I mean, he did very much say that.
No, totally. But what I'm trying to say is even Qatar, who is, how do you say, an in-between player, has moved. And by the way, one of the other things that they've asked the United States to ask Israel is not to assassinate any of the Hamas leaders in Qatar, meaning let them go before you assassinate them. I mean, and I don't know. I mean,
but that's this Biden regime. That's not Trump. Trump's mindset is go do what you have to do. The sooner you get it over with, the better.
So the Middle East is actually basically going to change in that direction. I mean, a Gulf state who has to decide who to support is now going to be more enamored, more tilted towards the United States. And as a result of that, and again, I can't help but reconnect Mike Huckabee to what's going on as not specifically, but as an indication that Trump is saying Israel is important to me. Israel is an ally and an asset, and here is me sending my representative to Israel as somebody that I know supports Israel.
Yep.
Okay, and the world, the Muslim world, has to figure that out. Because what is one of the first things that Barack Obama did when he came into office? I don't know if you remember.
He apologized. He basically kissed the rear ends of all the Muslims.
Yep.
Because he's a Muslim himself, even though he's married to a man.
And here's what Trump did. He put an evangelical, Israel-loving Christian into one of the most important roles in the interaction between us and the United States, and I think that's kind of amazing.
It is amazing. It's exciting. It's exciting to see that that's the direction that things are going. It's exciting to see that literally where we're at right now, how far we've gone, how much has changed. It's like, to God be the glory. Look at what's happened.
And that is sending a message to all the Middle East. So here's the guy with a missile in Yemen, thinking, wait a minute, do I fire this missile at Israel? Don't I fire at this missile? Now he's got something else to think about. Though they did find a couple of, well, we're going to have to find a solution to the drone thing.
Listen, I think that part of the solution to the drone thing is going to be founded in the upgraded system that Trump is going to build. And I think they're already talking about it. They're already looking for bids, or there's RFPs already out for stuff related to that system.
Well, there is an iron beam that's going to come online somewhere in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that. Iron beam is a missile system.
Amazing system.
But a missile system, okay, part of the problem with the laser system is that it's hard to hold a concentrated laser for any length of time or range. But for a drone, for an airplane, okay, you're not going to blow planes out like in Star Wars. But with a drone, all you need to do is melt one or two components on even change the aerodynamics, and you've brought the drone down.
Yeah, that's right.
So people were trying to get, Israel, I think, has decided somewhere in the last year that we don't need the high-powered lasers that we thought we were going to need. It's enough to use a low-powered laser. As long as we can kind of hit the drone, that would be enough to just melt one of the wing surfaces, and you brought the drone down.
Yeah. There's a lot to this. The drone issue is one that's becoming more and more complicated because it was fundamentally based on GPS capability, and now they've changed it to AI.
Yeah.
And so AI is a lot more powerful of a tool than GPS will ever be, because AI will be able to take in the environment without needing a compass. It could utilize an IMU to be able to determine its capacity to level itself. And then the PIDs that are written for that AI are going to be remarkable. The way that we do, for those of you engineers that understand how PID loops work, the way these traditional PID loops work is they're based on an algorithm that takes input from how the drone is leveling, and then it creates direction, speed, travel, stability features based on what it senses on the drone. But now AI basically is going to take a human brain, in essence, or the effect of a human brain, and put that inside the drone, and the drone now pilots itself using artificial intelligence. Yeah. So it doesn't even need the full capacity of what an IMU would do. All it needs to know is in essence the attitude of the drone. So instead of needing an IMU and instead of needing a GPS device, all it needs is an accelerometer. All it needs is the ability to be able to know how it's leaning and turning.
We call gyro sensors.
Yeah, I don't think to be honest with you, that what you would call the gyro sensors, that's the device that has the PID loop that we're talking about. That function, that little tiny black box, that little flight controller is what we call it, will not need some of the things that they rely upon. They don't need right now. The Iranian drones don't have them. The Iranian drones they're already talking about no IMUs, nothing that's dependent upon what those traditionally. So no magnetic forces,
no transmissions,
nothing. All it is think of it like this: taking a super experienced, 30-year experienced pilot and taking his brain, copying it, and pasting it into a drone using artificial intelligence that can make calculations a lot faster and can learn a lot faster than that pilot. That 30 years of experience can turn into 150 years of experience in minutes, throwing it in that drone and allowing that drone to be piloted by that artificial intelligence.
But again, I'm going
using only an accelerometer and a PID loop.
I'm going back to the fact that the drone is low tech. I mean, it's got a lawnmower engine on it. It's got
that stuff is low tech, but what drives it is extraordinarily high tech.
So the brain is high tech, but the drone itself is very hard to kind of pick up. And we're starting to use acoustic systems now in order to pick up the noise.
Yeah.
So we're going to see where that's going to go.
Which those go a long way as well. They do.
So
They really
what
do.
else is going to change in the Middle East after Trump?
So I think that because of what's happened with Trump, what else is going to change in the Middle East almost immediately is going to be Saudi Arabia's stand. I think Saudi Arabia, look, here's the thing that everybody has to understand when Trump first became president, okay? When Trump first became president, he did something that was very, very, very rare for a U.S. president. One of the very first trips he took was to the Middle East. He goes to the Middle East. You should have seen how the sheikhs in Saudi Arabia honored him. You should see how the Saudi family honored him. They kissed him in a very special way. They do this greeting where they grab, each other's hands and they pull each other into each other's arms, and they do that. They do that kissing. So all of this stuff is like.
By the way, I cringe about kissing Trump. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind kissing him. Why not? We're Middle Eastern. Why not?
Okay. I don't know.
I'll shake his hand, give him a hug, and kiss him right on the cheek.
All right.
As long as the Secret Service people won't take me down,
Okay.
I'll give him that respect.
Wow.
I love the man. I truly, honestly, like I have such a soft spot in my heart for the man, and it could be as well because I'm privy to things about him that a lot of people are not, and I can also tell you this. He really is. There's just okay. Every single man has their flaws. Every single man has their shortcomings.
You have flaws and
Oh my
shortcomings.
goodness, I have more flaws and shortcomings than I have positive. But the one thing that I can tell you for sure, because I see it, not based on what I'm told to say, not based on, I don't do so well doing things that I'm told to do unless it's God telling me to do it, right? I just love the man because I love the man's heart. And I'm not God. I don't know the man, the inner depth of a man's heart, but I do know this. He's lost billions of dollars since he's become the president of the United States. Billions, not millions. He's lost billions. And he still keeps coming back for a beating because he loves the American people.
No, he's on a mission. And he's on the kind of mission that we appreciate. That's what we like.
And I just think he's a sweet man.
So tell me how the Middle East is looking at this right now. I mean,
let me go back. So let me go back to this because I think this is let's just back up for 1 second, okay? He goes to the Middle East and he ends up having this meeting. He calls a meeting really with all of the Sunni nations, not with the Shiite nations, because he's smart. He knows better, right? He says, you all have a common enemy, and that enemy is Iran. And you
not
all,
Israel.
Yeah, and you all are walking on eggshells over this. And I'm just telling you this right now. I am going to incentivize the first person who steps up to the plate to normalize with Israel with two things. I'm going to incentivize you economically speaking, and you will see massive economic benefit as a result of you being the first one to step up to the plate. He says, I'm also going to incentivize you by providing security in the region.
Yep.
And the more of you jump on this normalization agreement, the more security you'll have in the region, because all of you will participate in the common structure that we have conceded to or given ourselves to, that will provide for us what we need in order to become better.
So,
And they all say this to him. They all say, well, what about the Palestinians? And he says, I'll tell you what. I will put together a deal in the normalization agreements that provide for significant concessions to the Palestinians. But I'm here to tell you that the Palestinians will not take it. And not only will they not take it, but governed by their charters, all they want to see is the elimination of the Jewish state. And I'm also here to tell you that if you expect to do well financially, you will never be able to do financially well unless you have the help of Israel. And then this is what he does. And this is a rumor I heard. This was in the room. This is what I heard he did this.
okay.
He turns around to Saudi Arabia and he tells Saudi Arabia, who's in the room, I believe MBS was in the room, and he says, tell me that's not true. Tell me that's not true. And basically, for the first time, he admitted something in that room that everybody knew, but hadn't heard publicly, and that is they've had secret relationships with Israel for probably the better part of 10 years.
Okay, so I want to do something kind of interesting. Let's see if we can pull this off, okay? We're going to go through the different players in the Middle East and tell me what you think before and after Trump.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's do that in 1 second.
Yep.
We'll do that in just like literally 30 seconds.
Okay.
So with that said, when Donald Trump left office, when it was taken from him, and Biden comes into office, the one thing that I have to reiterate, and I have to remind everybody, is that confidence was lost in the United States of America, especially because the United States of America, under the leadership of this current regime, reversed everything.
Yeah.
Ruined everything. So they're gun shy. So now they realize we don't have the backing of Trump. So why in the world should we make any effort to try to make this work? Because we know we're going to experience a massive consequence if we try to make it work. And that's the bigger problem.
So here's what, if you're sitting in the Middle East, you see. Okay, the United States of America is a broken reed.
Yeah, that's right.
Is a broken reed,
That's
which I
right.
spoke about. I mean, just like Hezekiah actually spoke about. I don't know if you remember, the Assyrians came to Jerusalem and stood in front of the walls in front of King Hezekiah and said, "Why are you leaning on a broken reed?" They meant Egypt back then, who was
Yeah.
the world power at the time.
Yep.
Okay, and the United States of America has become a broken reed for the last 4 years.
No, 100%. And on many levels. So with all of that said, with what the bridge that got burned and all of that, I think the instant change that's going to take place now that Trump is about to become president is you are going to see a race to the finish line of normalization.
Okay, so I want to go specifically.
Okay,
let's
yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with, let's say, Assisi,
Egypt.
Egypt. What changed the minute Trump became president for Assisi in Egypt?
Northern Egypt, southern Gaza. That will be the instant change that you'll see.
Meaning what?
You'll begin to see a functional seal off of what everybody knows as the Philadelphia corridor. You will see Egypt very aggressively pursue strengthening the underground infrastructure security so that it never becomes the gateway for property or for supplies to go to Hamas. You will see Egypt making moves very aggressively to eliminate Islamic Brotherhood finally. Don't be surprised, by the way, if you see some influence of Egypt's former leadership, non-Islamic Brotherhood leadership, to come in and to actually have a hand in helping that to happen. Okay? The other thing that I would also say, because this is like, which by the way, some of Mubarak sympathizers, right, may even come into play with that.
By the way, to connect to that, I heard something a little while ago that I'm not sure is substantiated, that Egypt agreed to train the forces that would be in control of Gaza after Israel pulls out.
Yeah.
Now, that is a new one because until now, Egypt didn't want to. So that's Assisi. But from the Egyptian point of view, a guy living in downtown Cairo.
Yeah. So the guy living in downtown Cairo is about to experience a floodgate of economic opportunities coming for him, because one of the issues that relates to Egypt's direct GDP, which by the way is tied to water. There's a water issue going on with Egypt that we have to talk about. But one of the things that's tied to Egypt's GDP relates to not just access to the Suez Canal, but consistency in the Suez Canal. And consistency in the Suez Canal has been dramatically diminished because of the activities of the Yemeni Houthis, not just the Yemeni Houthis, but also the activities of the United States of America in seeking to sandbag their activities by also limiting or taking the teeth out of the Yemeni Houthis' enemies.
Do you think that Ibrahim sitting in a coffee shop in Cairo smoking a hookah, hearing the results of the elections, is he saying to himself, wait, all of this goodness is going to fall on me?
No, he doesn't know what to think. But
That's what I'm asking. What is he thinking? What is he thinking? What's in his mind right now when he says, wait a minute, those crazy Americans have elected somebody that's anti-Muslim? What's he thinking right now?
See, but the thing is that everybody who calls Trump anti-Muslim are just the leftists in America. The Muslims don't think that way.
So what does he think?
That's what he's thinking.
What is Muhammad Mahmoud sitting?
Muhammad, Mahmoud, Ibrahim, whatever you want to say. I'll tell you what they're thinking, right? What they're thinking is, I'm getting Sharm el-Sheikh back. I'm literally going to be a little more secure in my country. Islamic Brotherhood is going away. That's probably what they're thinking at this point.
Okay. Let's go to Syria. What
Oh,
is
by the way, and that sentiment depends on what part of Egypt you're in. If you're in Upper Egypt, which means you're in the southern portion of Egypt, it's going to be different than if you're in Lower Egypt, which is the northern portion. If you're in Masri Jadida, like if you're in Cairo, for example, you're going to think a little bit differently than what you would think of if you were in Aswan. And in both contexts, you are going to be very happy about the security infrastructure that will change, especially as it relates to what happens in many of the landmarks in Egypt that Egyptians have come to appreciate that have been very, very affected by Islamic Brotherhood. It's going to be all about Islamic Brotherhood in Egypt. So I just wanted to make that comment really quick.
Hit Syria. What is Muhammad sitting and smoking his hookah in Damascus, Muhammad or Mahmoud or in Syria, saying to himself now that Trump is in office?
Yeah, more like Ra'ad sitting in but I understand what you're saying. It's going to be very interesting for them because in Syria, they are also going to think in their minds, we're going to have a little less activity because of Hezbollah no longer being around. And there's probably a little hope in Syria because there's probably a thought process that says we're going to actually get cities like Aleppo and Damascus back. That's my guess. So my guess is
Assad excited or not?
No, he's not excited. Of course he's not excited. He's not excited because he has less control of what he originally had, but he kind of doesn't care right now because of what's happening with his wife, and he doesn't really care right now because it's very clear he's tired. So he's
lost.
Yeah, he's in his own world. Now, the one thing that the average Syrian will think is this is exciting because we may, for the first time in 15 years, no longer have a civil war.
Yeah, have some stability.
Yeah. So that's good. And by the way, Hezbollah won't be a part of that. So I think when you start going into the northern portion through the corridor that leads from Aleppo to Damascus, from north to south or south to north from Damascus to Aleppo, there's going to be some noted marked stability, especially in the portion of Syria that neighbors Beirut. You know, that where, on the Syrian border where you cross away and you've got that little gateway into Beirut, that whole area is going to change.
Beirut Damascus Road.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I mean, they have amazing cherries.
The only reason why I couldn't say Beirut Damascus Road is because no one knows what I mean when I say that. I'm trying to just describe it. But yeah, that's right.
I literally have a picture. So
it used to be a beautiful gateway, by the way. This was the gateway into Paris.
I'm going to say this even more. Lebanon is a beautiful country.
Oh my goodness.
So we're talking about Lebanon. What about George sitting in Beirut, hearing all of the explosions happening in the Dahya, and now he's just now learned that the explosions were a little bit less because Biden was holding Israel back, and now Trump is in power. What is he going to say?
I think he's guarded. I think he doesn't know what to say. I think of any of the countries that surround that area, the citizens of Lebanon are going to be the most on guard because when they thought they had it in the bag and when they thought they were completely liberated in 1982, 83, they were shocked to find out that they lost everything and that there was nothing that was going to be done about that because of the international pressure on Israel and the weakness of Israeli leadership in not finishing the job and doing what needed to happen even in that time.
By the way, I called him George because in this case he's an Arab Christian. He's not a Muslim.
Yeah, that's right. And I know where you were driving with that. Of
course. But here's the thing. Does he maybe believe that Trump will put enough pressure on the Lebanese government?
He's guarded.
To dismantle Hezbollah and maybe make a serious change inside Lebanon.
He hopes that's the case, but it has nothing to do with dismantling Hezbollah. I think virtually every single Lebanese man or woman that's living right now in Lebanon is convinced that Hezbollah is done for good. I think the bigger issue is, will a vacuum be filled by another organization?
Well, he's seen this happen because his grandfather watched the civil war in Lebanon when it was created. His father watched me on my tank in Lebanon when it happened, and we actually pushed the PLO out of Lebanon, and that didn't solve the problem. Okay, he has watched the 2006 war between Israel and Lebanon, where it was actually decided that the Hezbollah was going to be away from Israel, and that was going to bring peace and stability to the southern border, and he's seen each of one of these fail.
Yeah.
So he's saying Trump can do something that nobody else could?
Well, they're guarded. Because they've heard things like this before. Like, for example, there was a thought process involved that maybe Fatah's involvement in southern Lebanon, maybe even further north, would be a good thing, because they are mandated as what they would call a secularist organization. They're non-idealistic. They don't really call themselves Muslims or practicing Muslims. Well, we know that went south very quickly because they're all guided by that. Their very charter is guided by that. So right now, of any of the Middle Eastern countries that are out there, I think the citizens of Lebanon are the ones that are like, let's wait and see. I don't know. And they're going to be that way for the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay. How about Mohammed Ghazid, who's sitting in Tehran? What is he saying?
So in Tehran, that's going to be another issue.
What is he saying? I mean, he's smoking his hookah. He heard the news just now. President Trump is in power. And what is he saying to himself?
I think there's a little bit of hope. I think there's hope that they're going to end up seeing something Shah-like coming. The problem with the Shah that people don't recognize was he was jacked up. He was jacked up just like Saddam Hussein was jacked up.
All other dictators who were dictators of countries. I mean, what was his name in Philippines, whose wife had thousands of...
Ferdinand Marcos.
And all of those.
Any like... They were just completely jacked up. I mean, think about it. Hosni Mubarak was not the nicest guy in the world. He was a pretty jacked up person.
No.
But what you don't realize is, what a lot of people don't realize is, if you remove them out of their power base, then in essence you also remove the regulating function that kept it at least together. Like Gaddafi was an animal. Of course, Gaddafi's not a good guy. Gaddafi is Hoa Kelb. That's what people say. He was a dog. The problem is, you remove Gaddafi after Benghazi. Look at how unstable it became. Russia saw an opportunity and jumped into it.
Same thing happened in Iraq after we removed Saddam Hussein.
Yeah. So the Iranians right now will not run towards regime change unless they see it actually happening progressively. Or
So
what I would call...
What would spark off regime change in Iran?
The death of Khomeini's whole family.
Who's going to do that?
That's my point. Because remember, once Ali dies, okay, his son Muhtab, I think it's Muhtab, that's the one. He's gonna be the one that is set to take it over.
So if Khamenei is going to die soon, okay.
Probably sooner than we think.
What would spark off regime change in Iran? And that's, I think, because
all of the Khomeini boys have to be dead.
Because I think if there's any possibility...
Not that I'm encouraging that.
Oh, okay. If there's any possibility of that happening, it's got to happen in the next 4 years.
Yep.
Meaning a regime change in Iran will be the catalyst that changes everything in the Middle East.
And I don't think there are as many people who are upset about Soleimani dying as it's being projected in the media.
Oh.
With all of these death threats against Trump and these attempts to take his life and so on and so forth, these are all being regulated by Khomeini. We all know that. And the IRGC, what's left of the IRGC. We know that.
Okay.
What's the name of Iranian's intelligence unit? I forgot. There's two names that we give them.
You're not going to pull it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, I want to go to Muhammad sitting in his ruined house in Rafah or in Bet Hanun. What is he saying now that Trump's in power?
Very similar to what they're saying in Lebanon right now. It's a we'll wait and see. The only problem that I have in that situation is even in the Judea and Samaria, 73% of the people that live in that area would still vote for Hamas today if Hamas was still in power. So the ideals are going to be the same, and I think that what you're going to see in Rafah over the next at least 20 years is going to be the same mentality that you're seeing on the extreme left here in the United States of America. We're victims, we're owed reparations, we hate the Americans. You're going to see a lot of that. And there's going to be a lot of faction fighting. There's going to be a lot of people positioned against Egypt. Israel's a no-brainer. We're going to see that. There's going to be a lot of fighting between the people in Gaza and, of course, many of the Syrian factions terrorist factions that actually have an interest in that area and want to be big players in it. And believe it or not, it's going to affect China substantially because China has already brokered some kind of a thing. I think it's called the Beijing Declaration, where they're putting together 20 different leaders of 20 different terrorist organizations that are going to try to co-rule this area of Gaza together. And by the way, Bibi will never let it happen, nor will any Israeli let it happen.
So I'm going to say this. If I understand something that kind of goes through all of this, the Middle East is going to be waiting. To
Very
see
much so. Very
to see
much
what's
so.
going to happen.
Saudi Arabia probably won't. Saudi Arabia will get aggressive, and they're gonna. It's a calculated risk. Saudi Arabia, I think, knows that they hold in their hand a lot of control in a lot of areas, and assuming they can get given the Temple Mount, and they become now this new guardianship. The everything Waqf is associated with Saudi Arabia. Then they will rush to normalization so that they could be the first to the trade route modification.
So Saudi Arabia is going to be on the ideas. Okay, we have a new CEO. I want to get up and kind of connect to him on the bottom floor, so I can rise with him through the system.
I guarantee you, in Saudi Arabia, they've been running around the Kaaba praying to Allah for Donald Trump to get voted.
Yeah, but what are they offering right now? What can they offer?
Are you kidding me? It's not what they can offer, it's what they do. If Saudi Arabia normalizes with Israel, it literally opens up the door to many of the smaller nations that won't do it because they don't trust in the infrastructure waiting and available to them.
So what's been holding them back? And I'm going to kind of, I know
Palestinians.
I'm adding a loaded question even more. The Palestinians, but not in a direct manner, because Iran has decided that the Palestinians.
There's nothing to do with that.
Because Iran has decided that the Palestinians are the main issue. Iran's power right now is based on the fact that they don't back down.
Yeah.
And if Iran cannot attack Israel, the ones they can attack is who? The Saudis.
Oh, yeah, no, we know that. Yeah, of course. They've been doing it through the Yemenis.
So I don't know if Saudi Arabia shouldn't be more worried or less worried now.
I think there are two things on Saudi Arabia's radar when it comes to Iran. The first thing that's on their radar is the southern portion of the Arabian Peninsula, of course, and they'd be stupid not to think that way. They're also very concerned about Oman's security because if Oman is not secure, then you have a bigger problem with the Yemenis as they go further south and further east. The other issue that they're concerned about isn't the Persian Gulf per se, although the Persian Gulf is of grave concern to them. I think the bigger issue that they're worried about is nuclear capability. Mm-hmm. And I think that Saudi Arabia will do anything that it can in its power to prevent Iran's nuclear program because Saudi Arabia does not want to possess nuclear weapons. They do not want to possess nuclear weapons, but they will, and they will very gravely commit to it and are already in talks with nuclear powers to be able to obtain nuclear weapons because of their fear of Iran.
Well, that's what they wanted to use Israel for.
Yeah.
They wanted Israel to be their nuclear threat.
I mean, that's my point. My point is the faster they get to the normalization picture, then the easier it becomes for them to be able to ward off the nuclear problem that they're facing.
Yeah, but here's the thing. As opposed to a proxy...
Which, by the way, they gain India and Pakistan as nuclear friends if they can adjust the trade routes with the new corridors that they're talking about, because India especially gains a stupid amount of money in their GDP.
Yeah.
So it's smart. They're playing it smart. But anyway, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
What I'm trying to say is that I don't think they believe that Israel will ever fight for them. So if they get into a shooting match with Iran, Israel's not going to come save them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So Israel's not going to save them unless there's something that would incentivize them to do so. And with respect to the normalization agreement, that will not be enough. That's the reason why Bibi is calling for a Middle Eastern NATO. If they put together a Middle Eastern version of NATO, then the security agreement will be the solidifying piece to finalize the normalization function. And through that solidification, you'll find a perceived stability in the region. And it will cause even Iran to change.
I don't see a scenario, and I might be wrong, where Israelis go to fight for Saudi Arabia or Saudis go to fight for Israel on the other way around.
It won't be at that level. It'll be at the level of sharing intelligence. It'll be at the level
But NATO means if you attack Germany, you actually attack Great Britain. I mean, and
Yeah, but but the thing is, and you'll be more familiar with this than anybody else that I talk to, but it's also part of the convenience mechanism that NATO created. Remember, NATO is the North Atlantic, okay? So the idea here is proximity. So if you're in proximity with the nations or close proximity with the nations that you create these alliances with, then that close proximity prevents the idea of having to cross each other's borders in order to defend one another. We have the technological capability to provide the security necessary to defend assets without having to put troops on the ground.
NATO. Okay, so I'm saying this. Okay,
Not that NATO can do that; they're a joke.
We make a Article 5 with Saudi Arabia. Article 5 basically is you shoot one, you shoot us all.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how that would work. I'm thinking about it as an Israeli. Would I want my son to put on a uniform, or my grandson, or whatever, to put on a uniform and go fight in the Gulf of Oman in a battle between Saudi Arabia and Iran?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see that happening, and I don't see it happening the other way around. If Israel is under attack by forces that come in from Syria, will Saudi Arabia send tanks up to Jordan to fight on the Golan Heights?
But I don't think it'll manifest that way. I think the way it'll manifest is it'll manifest in a way where each person who's tied to this semi-Article 5 stipulation will be required to defend the areas related to what keeps their normalization alive. So, for example, if you have Israeli assets sitting in an Arabian airport, then those are going to be defended by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
If you have Saudi Arabian assets sitting in an Israeli airport, then those are going to be defended by Israel. And if an action is taken against either one on each other's soil, then it will, in essence, become a declaration of war by virtue of what just happened. And in that, the participation with respect to defending its infrastructure will not be mitigated per se to a specific geography, but will involve a lot of limitations for how it's done. So the idea here is that any damage that needs to be controlled for Saudi Arabia on Israeli territory will be defended, and anything that regards an Israeli asset on Saudi Arabian territory will be defended by each other's armies. And I think, or each other's assets. And I think this is why Saudi Arabia is jumping at that, because Israel's Mossad is very smart. It's like they will protect, with their understanding, with their intelligence, the notion that the corridor can be safe. And the new corridor that they build will be the thing that will be defended staunchly by international resources, namely the United States of America.
Okay, so in order to tie this subject up, here's a weird question, because one of the things that Trump is, how do you say, portrayed or accepted as or seen as is an isolationist.
Yeah, he's not that. That's for sure.
And here's the thing. And it's come up again. People were asking J.D. Vance the other day, is Trump an isolationist, and how does that work in? So is Trump not an isolationist?
He's not. This is the problem that people have with Donald Trump in terms of understanding him. Everybody thinks that Donald Trump is an America-only person because they're conflating America only with America first. He's an America first person. Very different, two very different things. If you're an America only person, then you're telling everybody, hey, literally, you can all go to hell. I don't care about any of you. All I care is about America, and I don't care about any of the interests around. The problem is it's not a good philosophy. It's certainly not the MAGA doctrine, okay? It has nothing to do with Make America Great Again. So he does not have the America only philosophy. He has the America first philosophy, which means if I'm going to help you with your missile defense system, then mine needs to be perfect first. If I'm going to take care of this, then what I need to do here is first. Now, the problem that a lot of people have, even when they adapt to that philosophy, is they're too naive or ignorant, dare I say, to understand what that has to look like. And I'll give you a great example of this. If I use the America First doctrine in being able to build a missile defense system for my homeland, and I'm the American president, and I hold fast to the doctrine that Trump is holding fast to, then I am immediately going to recognize the necessity in helping Israel bolster their system, because I can't bolster my system unless I work with them on this issue. Shared intelligence, infrastructural requirements, agreements that were entered into in the past. So America can't just simply say, hey, Israel, we're putting your Iron Dome on hold while we build our Iron Dome. Well, the problem is the agreements in the creation of those pictures, even if it's American patriots, Patriot missiles, we cannot, not on any stretch of the imagination, we cannot work independently of one another. We have to work together, because that's the stipulation that was set forth, or the requirement that was set forth in the agreement stipulated to. So the problem is if you're going to be America first, then you have to engage with other countries in order to bring the best result for America. So that's the idea, and it's in the best interest of Israel and the United States of America to look for the best interest of Israel. Here's the thought process behind it. Let me simplify it to just like the most simple level, okay? When we give Israel weapons, when we give Israel arms, when we give them missiles, when we give them, things that supplement all of their defense capability, we're not giving it to them. We make a stupid amount of money. Israel pays us an exorbitant amount of money. So much so that for every missile they pay us for, we're capable of producing 2 or 3 for ourselves. Yeah. So this isn't like, let's go to Ukraine, give them a bunch of money, have it all get peed so that, the president can live to strip another day. It's not that.
So just to end this segment, I want to stress, though, something else. If we understand that, then what's going to happen in the in-between time?
That's the scary part for me. That to me is the part that is unknown.
Just to explain, the in-between time is from now that we know that Trump is going to be president. Days. And how many? 67 days?
I believe.
6th of January?
No, it ends up becoming the 21st of January. 20 or 21st. I have to go
20 or 21st. Okay, so from now to January, what's going to happen? I've got one thing that's on my mind seriously, and that's the situation in Lebanon. I don't know if you heard, but they're talking about a ceasefire in Lebanon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they have to.
No, Israel doesn't want a ceasefire. We want to finish off Hamas.
No, I'm not saying that they have to, meaning it has to happen. I'm saying Lebanon has to think that way, because if Lebanon has the let's wait and see picture, they're not going to advance the completion of any action by Israel, because they don't know how much United States of America is going to support the infrastructure of that movement. Remember, the United States of America has signaled its lack of desire to support them in this action.
So there's a little bit of a nuance on this one, and I'll tell you what I've heard from Israeli news, and it basically goes like this. While the United States of America is still the Biden administration, they won't veto Security Council resolutions that are brought up against Israel. Meaning, if the Security Council, led by Macron in France and others, passes a Security Council resolution which is different from the General Assembly resolution that says Israel must cease fire in Lebanon, okay, until now, those kind of resolutions were vetoed by the United States. The Biden administration might not veto that.
Yeah.
So Israel is being pressed to the wall with reaching an agreement in Lebanon that we might not want to reach, in order for that not to happen in the, 67 days?
Yeah.
That we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm worried about right now, about what's going on in Lebanon.
I'm more directly concerned about the president's safety. I'm more concerned about Trump's safety. I mean, I hope and I pray that he stays intact and no one seeks to attack him or anything like that. The one thing that I can tell you about the 67-day wait, or the concerns that you might see on the Lebanese side, or the concerns that you might see in other people, Turkey, for example, is beginning to backpedal a little bit. I'm surprised with how much Erdogan is kissing Trump's rear.
Yeah.
It's a shock, by the way.
No, I'm not, because again, this is the Middle East. You kind of get in line behind the guy.
They respect power. Yeah, I get it.
You get in line behind the strong guy. And Trump and the United States has turned out to be the strong guy again.
Yeah, but the problem is that that's not what surprises me. His general disposition towards Trump doesn't surprise me. What surprises me is, in order for him to have that general disposition towards Trump, he's got to kiss the rear of opponents in the Middle East that he would normally flip off. And I can tell you this right now, he's already focusing on tightening up his relationship with Mahmoud Abbas. And he knows that he has to if he's going to get behind Trump in doing what he does, because he has to be able to garner some type of favor to affect the very things that he sees happening, not only in Gaza, but to affect the things that he's seeing happening on the West Bank.
So
Or Judea, Samaria, as we would say.
what do you call this? An interim period? What do you call this? What is it called?
A transitional period, I
Transitional
guess.
period?
That's really what you talk about.
So what do we need to pray for? And I'm telling you, we need to pray for Israel not to back down. Israel needs to finish off the Hezbollah in the north. Not to back down to this.
Yeah, he can't. Trump won't back down. There's no way. And
Yeah,
as
but
long as there's American
question is,
hostages.
what happens in between? I'm saying in the north, in Hezbollah.
Yeah. No, but still, it has everything to do with American hostages. It's not, look, Trump understands this. He understands this better than most people. If you allow weakness to be the thing that governs and regulates how you function as a nation, then you're asking the whole world to take your citizens hostage. So Trump recognizes that there has to be a complete elimination of Hezbollah, not just in Lebanon, but a complete elimination of Hezbollah anywhere else where any sympathizers might be. And you know where that means, right? That means Syria.
Yeah.
That means northeastern or northwestern Syria.
By the way, it means Iraq too.
Yeah, it means the Golan Heights. It means part of what is controlled technically by Russia. And this is it's a big deal. And the Golan Heights is a massive part of that because it involves a huge security infrastructural problem for the finger, that little area, that northern part of the country.
And you know what sits,
right
you know what
right
sits
below,
on top of the Golan Heights? A little community called Trump Heights.
Yeah.
Did you know there?
You told me about this. This was really funny, man.
There is a community on the Golan Heights called Trump Heights.
Yeah, this is really funny, and I didn't know about this. Some of you guys might not know about this either. There are several places right now in Israel that are named after Trump, including areas in the Temple Mount.
That I didn't hear.
Yeah, there's one area that they're calling this little area where the underground tunnels are, that they're looking to build these train stations to come in.
Yeah.
They're calling it, I forgot what they call it, the Trump something. I forgot.
Oh,
You remember, I think you're the one that told me about this.
The Trump station,
The Trump station, the Trump Railway or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, they're doing it. And this is like, to them, it's a big deal because, no one's given them that kind of preeminence before.
Cool.
So, and he does. He has a whole lot more courage than even Truman did with respect to the Jews.
So what are we praying for during this transition?
First and foremost, guys, his safety. That he doesn't get killed.
And remember that, yeah. His safety. His safety is critical here.
Yep. And that he would just continue to have courage and boldness to stand up for what he knows is right, and that he would be open to hearing godly counsel. And he is. We just pray that doesn't change.
The ambassador to Israel is a huge...
there's a bunch of these that are like that, bro. Like there's a bunch of these appointees. So much is going on right now. I have a dear friend who's in Mar-a-Lago right now, who's working with the transition team, giving all kinds of advice. Did you hear that he's getting rid of the Department of Education? How incredible is that? He's getting rid of the Department of Education and saying it goes all back to the states.
So each state has its own...
Could you imagine how much more effective that's going to be for kids in education?
Finally. The decision is not made by the woke wackos in
No. Matter of fact,
Washington.
they're going to do everything they can to stop him. The Attorney General of the state of California got up in front of everybody on the hillside by the San Francisco Bridge to tell everybody that he's going to block everything that Trump wants to do.
Did you see the green, the blue-red areas in California?
Oh, it's we have doubled the footprint in California of people voting conservatively.
I did
Doubled.
It. I did it.
Doubled
it was
the
me.
footprint.
It was me.
And the Attorney General is mad, and so is Gavin Newsom. He's mad too, but he's a pig, just like the Attorney General. So yeah, David, we got a lot going on, and we have a lot to pray for because, literally, I'm not kidding you, Donald Trump just turned the Middle East upside down. Yeah. There's no other way to describe it.
He turned the United States upside down. It looks like, as a result of that, the rest of the world. And
the waves are being felt everywhere.
So
I would argue that he turned the United States right side up. Probably.
There you go. I will go that.
And I think we need to pray for Bibi. Because I think more than ever...
Bibi's under attack right now.
I know, and I'm telling you, more than ever, they want to destroy him. They want to remove him because in their minds, there is no way that Bibi can be allowed to be in office while Trump is in office.
Oh.
Because if they are both in office together, it's a wrap. It's over. you know? And I think a majority of the Israeli people want to see that happen because they want their security to be enhanced. And I'm telling you right now, a lot of them are thinking about judicial reform. They're not. It's not even an issue on their mind right now. They could care less.
So, is it time to pray?
Yeah. So these are all things to pray for. These are all things to be concerned with. So, all right, David, you do the honors, bro.
Avinu Shebashamayim, it's just amazing to watch the mechanism of your machine turning the gears and turning the PowerPoints and turning the places that are turned. It's amazing to see how all of these events actually are leading in a specific direction, and the specific direction is to your glory. I want to thank you that the United States of America has turned right side up, and we're seeing more and more examples of how this is happening. I want to thank you personally for putting Mike Huckabee in a very unique place of connecting Israel and the United States and making that connection a God-fearing, Israel-loving connection. And I just want to say thank you for that, knowing who and what we're talking about, and watching the advancement of your plan in what's going on translated onto the political. Please put your hand over President Trump. Keep him secure. Keep him physically secure. We know that there's a lot of psychological, economical, spiritual, and legal, and more important than anything, spiritual and arrows aimed at him right now. Put a shield up in front of him because he's going to need it. I pray for Bibi. I pray that you will keep him safe and allow him to do what needs to be done. And I pray for all of us in the Middle East who are watching this play out, that there will be at some point the peace in the Middle East that we know has been promised. And we just want to thank you for this amazing opportunity and pray that the mechanism and the machinery will continue to click in the way that it's been clicking. We pray this in the name of Jesus, your son.
Amen. Amen and amen. And Dean, thank you, by the way, for your support. Dean says, actually, David, it started to change after I was out there the last time.
It's all because of you, Dean. It's all because of you.
Things are changing because of the people of God who are praying and are seeking the Lord on these issues, because there's so many of them. And I would just say, you guys, thank you. Thank you for getting involved. Thank you for being a part of things.
Yes.
Thank you for helping us in this
Thank you for
battle.
listening to us.
Yeah. I mean,
in all our studios.
it's been such an encouragement to see you guys responding. And no matter how you cut it, we won because enough Christians showed up to make a difference. And that's
people are making a difference.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I hope that there's going to be more of an awakening, more of a realization, more of an understanding of what's going on. You guys are good, amazing people. You're faithful. And I cannot tell you how grateful, I cannot tell you enough how grateful I am for you guys. So thank you for all that you've done. We got some great things coming up, great things around the corner we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. I know David and I were talking about
a
big thing that he's planning that's going to be really amazing.
Let's see.
Great opportunity to see some great things happening. All right. So we love you guys. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep looking to the Lord. God's got great things in store for us. God bless you guys.